Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Come on in, grab a seat, pull up a chair. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Expo. If this is your first session of the day, we're very excited to have you here. For those of you I don't know, I'm Kelly Wilson, the Director of Donor Engagement for WCN, and I'm excited to have all of you here. You've probably had a million emails in your inbox from me, so sorry about that, but welcome. I'm here today to introduce Ewaso Lions, and I'm very excited to have Shivani and Toby here. It's been 4 years since Shivani's here, so she's like, there's so many new faces. It's been 4 years. So really excited to have Shivani and Toby here to talk about their work in Samburu, Kenya. One of the things that I love most about this program is how entrenched in the community they are. As I look around the audience, I see lots of faces of people that I know have been to Samburu, some of you with me, and we've really gotten to see deep details on the program. In the last couple years, they've doubled down on their community efforts in Samburu and doubling down on saving lions in northern Kenya. So I'm very excited to invite Shivani Bala and Toby Tenno, I can never say her last name, to the stage to talk about lions.
I was sitting in a small, stuffy hotel conference room a few months ago. The government of Kenya, we were speaking to them about the work that Ewaso Lions does. They had given us about 3.5 hours to give presentations. And at the end of those 3.5 hours, I sat down and I looked around the room at my team and I had tears in my eyes. But I also had a huge smile on my face, because in those 3.5 hours of presentations on Ewaso Lions, I spoke for 5 minutes. The rest of the presentations were given by my most amazing team, who spoke with such pride, such dedication, and such passion about the work they do to protect lions in northern Kenya. And I sat there and I really reflected on this journey, this 15-year journey of Ewaso Lions. We just celebrated it last month. And I couldn't believe how far we have come. What a journey it has been. And today, this is our story. I moved to Samburu 20 years ago from my home in Nairobi. And I moved to Samburu with very little idea of what I was doing. I moved there with my little white Suzuki car, which was my home, it was my kitchen, it was my office, it was everything. I had no vision, I had no strategy, I had no plan. I didn't know what I was doing there. I didn't know when I would do things, I didn't know how I would do things. But there was one thing that really drove me, and I knew why I was there. I was born in Nairobi, and I was very lucky as a child to go on safari with my parents. And I developed a huge passion for wildlife. And as I grew up, I knew right from the early days that I wanted to do something in conservation. I also felt that as a Kenyan, this was my duty and my responsibility to protect what is ours. I also began to learn that lions were in serious trouble. I was hearing that lions across Africa were disappearing very quickly. There's only about 20,000 lions left in Africa. And in my country, only about 2,500. This was a huge concern for me as a Kenyan, and I felt this was my life's purpose, to try and understand what was happening with the lion population up in northern Kenya. I knew that about 50% of Kenya's lions actually live outside protected areas. So what was happening to them? Why were they disappearing so quickly? This was an unknown population, and I was really excited to figure out what was happening. We are based up here, Ewaso Lions, in the spectacular Samburu region of northern Kenya. We get its name We get the name from the Iwasa River, this beautiful river that snakes its way throughout northern Kenya. It is the heart of the landscape and the lifeline for so much. The communities, their livestock, wildlife, all really depend on this river. We work across an area of about 2,000 square miles, 3 beautiful protected areas, areas that have been set aside for wildlife and tourism. We also work across 11 community conservancies. These are community lands where people, livestock, and wildlife all share the same land. It is a beautiful, unfenced part of the country. And the communities that I'm so lucky and privileged to live and work with every single day are the Samburu pastoralists. Their lives depend on their livestock. Cows, camels, donkeys, sheep, it means everything to them. And they depend on the land to survive. Sadly, this land is a very degraded one. We face frequent droughts. We are in the midst of a serious drought at the moment. There's so little rain, and the communities need a healthy land for their livestock. So this is a huge problem for the communities and their livestock and wildlife, and a huge problem for lions. I often say lions need grass, and people say, what do you mean? They're not vegetarian. But their food needs grass. And when you have a landscape like this, wild herbivore numbers are very low. And when this happens, lions will go after livestock. Camels, cows tend to be so much easier for lions. But understandably, when a lion kills a cow or a camel, that means so much to the communities. There is so much anger and resentment, and often lions are shot in retaliation. And when I moved to Samburu, these were some of the threats I was discovering, and I was learning more about what is happening with this very unknown lion population. And I knew that this was Kenya's most significant lion population up in the north, and there was a lot of work to be done. That was the beginning of my journey. But the story of Ewaso Lions isn't just my journey alone. It is a team's journey. And for so long, I thought as a Kenyan, this is a very normal story. Most Kenyans must get into conservation like me, a childhood passion. Only to discover my story as a Kenyan is actually the most unusual one. Most Kenyans get into conservation by chance. And today, I'm so pleased and proud to introduce to you for the first time at WCN, our Director of Impact and Operations, Toby Otieno, who's going to tell you a little bit about how he got into conservation.
I'm a little nervous. This is my first time. Bats and rats. That was my first conservation project experience. Growing up as a child, I never knew about conservation. I had no clue at all what conservation was. My only experience with wildlife was sneaking out of school to go and see wildlife in small, tiny cages at a sanctuary at the shores of Lake Victoria. My childhood background was more about electronics and machines. Unfortunate enough, my dad had a small electronic kiosk at Kisumu, a city by the shores of Lake Victoria. I remember in so many occasions, I would sneakily open up any electronics or radios I could find to see what was inside, just to see who are these guys like speaking in this tiny little, gadget. How did they get inside there? You know? So with my fascination about electronics and machines, the only thing I could thought of as a career was engineering. And I was so convinced that was going to be my future. As a teenager, I had a nickname Ninja, because I would ninja my way into all sorts of jobs everywhere, anywhere, including bartending, including working in auto garages, including working in makeshift cinema theaters, and sometimes including cleaning up filthy wells and ponds just to raise money for school and to make ends meet. I remember one time, this was immediately after high school, in a small town in the middle of Rift Valley. I was in this auto garage, under a car, tinkering curiously, trying to fix this car, when my mom showed up. I was shocked, shocked and surprised, as I did not expect her at all. She had traveled over 200 kilometers to come and find me. You know, "Son, you are needed very urgently at University of Nairobi," she said to me. The next morning, I was at Nairobi, standing in front of this huge notice board where all the courses offered by public Kenyan university for government students were listed. I scanned frantically at this list, trying to find out where all the engineering courses were. But to my shock and dismay, all the engineering courses were filled up. I was heartbroken, started getting confused, started getting worried that the only chance I had at joining a university was slipping away from me very fast. Then I remember my aunt, who had accompanied me, tapped on my shoulder and said, "Jaribu hiyo," translating to "try that." She said, pointing out to a wildlife and management conservation course that still had a few slots left. And that's how I got into the world of conservation. You know? And that conservation journey took me first to working with the rats and bats as my first conservation project, then Dicks and Impalas. I hope some of you have seen the Dick, this tiny little, yeah, and then Dicks and Impalas, and then eventually to lions. How did I get to work with the lions? There was a job advert for a research manager. I applied. This was my first time ever putting on a suit. I remember I had to borrow a suit, and then went for an interview. Unfortunately enough, I got the job. And I had the opportunity to join this amazing team of individuals working tirelessly to make an impact in lion conservation. And the impact we've had in the last 15 years is huge. This is Generia, which is known to many of you in this audience. Generia is a great friend of mine. He started Warrior Watch to engage a very important group of individuals in this pastoral community, the warriors. They're very important, but very neglected when it comes to land conservation. It's the warriors, when such things happen like conflict, it is them who are in the forefront to go and kill the lions. And the impact Warrior Watch has had is huge. Through Warrior Watch, since 2010, we've been able to monitor lions, both on foot and on vehicle. Through Warrior Watch, we've been able to save lions from being killed in over 100 occasions. Through Warrior Watch, we've been able to save lions from being killed by the carnivores, saving the community over $100,000. Generia was the first group of warriors in the Warrior Watch program, but unfortunately, he's getting old, and now he joined me as a as a junior elder. And with this, since last year, we've had a new generation of warriors join the Warrior Watch. And they bring in so much energy and so much passion, to an extent sometimes we feel like oldies, you know. Women in any given society are very important. And to a pastoral community in northern Kenya we work, women are believed to be the owners of wildlife. Wildlife belongs to women, not to men, but to women. And Mama Simba, one of our programs, which is being led by these two amazing women in front, Munteli and Parasarui, has done so much to give back the women the wildlife. that they believe belongs to them. And through Mama Simba, they've been able to work with the community and coordinate, get them during droughts to go and get them dig wells for wildlife during such bad times as during droughts. And Munteli, which was there like 3 years ago, probably in the same Expo, has been an icon. She's the first ever traditional woman to know how to drive, despite her not going to school. She's an inspiration to many. And with such stories, these are the key things that keep us going, knowing that nothing is impossible. And right now, when they're like going about doing their activities, they have a song. And there's like a new phrase like they've added into their song, that we want a new car. And fortunate enough, they got the car. And with that, we know they are going to be unstoppable in what they're doing in terms of land conservation. Imagine, as a young child, living in this beautiful, expansive landscape with beautiful, amazing carnivores like lions. But the only things you know when you go out adding your livestock, which is very, very dearly to you and to your family, are the negative sides of the lions. With the Warrior Watch program, we are trying to change that. We are giving back the trust between carnivores and the children back to the children. And Lions Kids Camp, since we started 10 years ago, we've been able to have over 700 kids go through Lions Kids Camp. And one of the things to do is take them out for game drives to at least show them the other good side of lions. This is Lycassian. He was one of the kids who attended the first few kids camp we had. And guess what? Lycassian had to go change his name more than 2 times so that at least he could come and have like another experience in our kids camp. And during our 10th year anniversary, he gave a speech in front of more than 400 guests, and it was spectacular. Now Lycassian is joined our Warrior Watch and is the head warrior. The world is changing everywhere, and with the changing world comes new challenges, such as like infrastructure, including roads. Northern Kenya, we didn't have this before, but they are coming, and this brings up new challenges that we did not have before. And I never would have imagined, as a young child who used to brew illicit alcohol with his mom, he's soon starting his PhD to look into the effects of such infrastructure like roads and rails and pipeline is affecting the movement of lions in this landscape. And that is my journey, and my journey continues.
As you've heard from Toby, the northern Kenyan landscape is a changing one. The Ewaso River now dries up so often. And this is a very common sight where communities are taking their livestock down to the river, it's drying up, sometimes they're digging holes. And right behind, in those thick green bushes, are elephants, leopards, and lions. And what we are seeing now is more and more close contact between wildlife and communities. And when this happens, we have now seen a new threat that is emerging in northern Kenya, the threat of disease. Rabies and distemper are now prevalent. This picture was taken in Tanzania. This is a dog with rabies who was attacking a male lion. And in the 90s, the Serengeti and Mara lost a huge number of lions to distemper. And for us, with our small population in northern Kenya, this is a huge risk. These are the critically endangered wild dogs. And distemper has wiped out huge numbers of them back in 2017 and again in 2019. For so long, we wanted to do something about this, but our project was small, we didn't have the capacity, but things changed. And a couple of years ago, we were able to start a new program. Close your eyes for a second and think of a Samburu village. You hear the sounds of sheep bleating. You hear the sounds of a Samburu woman with her necklace going to milk the goats. You hear the sounds of donkeys braying. You hear that beautiful wooden sound of a camel with its bell as it walks through the village. And there's one animal that's always been overlooked. That's the dog. Samburu elders say that if you don't have a dog in your village, you're living in blindness. You're living in darkness, they say. Yet dogs play such a critical role when it comes to reducing conflict between people and lions. They go out every single day with young livestock herders, and every time they see the presence of a carnivore, they alert the livestock herder to the presence of that carnivore. The herder can then chase that cheetah away. At night, dogs are staying in the villages and bark every time they see a hyena in the distance. Again, the livestock owner will come out, shine his torch, and the hyena is chased away. They are saving livestock from being killed by carnivores and are playing a hugely critical role in that coexistence paradigm. And finally, 2 years ago, we launched our new program, Kuras Pride, named after my very special dog, Kura, who I miss a lot. He's in camp, he's waiting for me. But Kura really inspired me because he found us 10 years ago. And he was lost, he was limping, and we took care of him. And in a very short time, by giving him care, access to veterinary health, he became the most vigilant dog and protects me every single minute. And he inspired me to want to do more for domestic dogs. Finally, through Kuras Pride, we now have a domestic animal veterinary unit run by an amazing young Kenyan veterinarian, Jessica, assisted by Solomon. And they go out every single day vaccinating dogs and cats. Over the last couple of years, together with our partners, we have vaccinated over 6,000 animals, stopping the spread of disease from domestic animals to wild carnivores. They're also doing population control, really trying to encourage the domestic animal owners to manage better, smaller dog populations. They're doing disease surveillance. A few months ago, we had a huge canine distemper outbreak, and they were able to contain it. They're also out treating domestic animals who have been attacked by wild carnivores. For so long, we would get reports of our camel's been injured, our donkey's been injured by a hyena, come and help us. But we just were not able to. But all that has changed. This was Jessica's first day on the job. She'd barely unpacked, and we got a report that this camel had been attacked by a lion. And she was out there, she treated it, and in the past 1 year alone, they have treated almost 1,000 animals. This work is helping us not only really continue to encourage the communities to have more tolerance towards carnivores, but also helping us forge our way through our mission of coexistence. And there's no one that tells the story more of coexistence than this amazing lioness. Coexistence takes so much courage. It takes courage for the communities to continue to live alongside lions. And it takes so much courage for the lions to figure out how to live alongside humans. This Lioness Narmat, she was born in the protected area of Samburu. Janaria and I knew her when she was a tiny little cub, and we followed her as she made her home in community lands. She taught us what lions need in order to survive alongside people. She taught us that lions, in fact, live a solitary nature when they feel threatened. She taught us how to survive. She was the real story of coexistence. Narmat not only taught us how lions do quite well in community areas, but actually thrive. And she had a number of litters of cubs who all did so well. Maroy, Masanduku, Narasha are these three. Sadly, a year and a half ago, we got a report that Narmat was sadly very, very badly wounded. Jenaria, Toby, and the team rushed there, and she was in such bad shape. The veterinarian came and said he had to put Narmat down. This was a huge, huge loss, not just for us as a team. Our team was devastated, but for the community too. They were so invested in this lioness. We were so worried that Narmat had been shot, but she hadn't been shot. She had been attacked by another male lion. And what was more sad for us is we discovered Narmat was pregnant with 4 cubs. But her legacy continues. And these 3 amazing cubs of hers had 3 of their own cubs just last year. And I'm so lucky. I go out every single morning right in front of our camp, and this is where these lions live. And I hope many of you have had the privilege of seeing a lion in the wild. And do you remember that moment when you saw your first lion? I get that feeling every single time I go and see these lions, because they are not living in a protected area. They are living alongside humans. And before, we would see lions only come out in darkness because they were so scared to come out during the day. But now they come out during the day, and I see them hunt, and I see them play, and I see them feel safe. We now have our highest population in 15 years. We also have seen lions recover in areas that they were not present for 30 years. We've seen lions use critical corridors that the communities have worked so hard to keep open. I am so proud of my team and our communities. This is the work they have done. This has been an extraordinary journey for Ewaso Lions. A journey of strength, resilience, vulnerability, and courage. We go through so many difficult periods, but we always bounce back. A few months ago, someone was talking to me on the phone and said, "But Shivani, you live out in the bush. Life must be quite easy out there. I mean, you don't really live a life of a normal person." And of course, me being me, I had to speak back. And I said, actually, I'm pretty normal. Well, some of you might argue about that, but I am pretty normal. I do live a normal life. And we have good days and bad days, just like anyone else. We go through family emergencies, we go through heartbreak, we go through health problems, we go through so much, but it makes us stronger, and it makes us come back even with more courage and more resilience to get on with that vision of coexistence. And every single day, I come out of my house and I stand on my deck and I face reality. We are in the midst of a serious drought. Animals are dying daily. And I look at that, but I have an unwavering faith in the ability of this landscape to bounce back, the communities to get through, and wildlife to recover. And a lot of my faith also comes from my team. These are the faces of Ewaso Lions, just some of them. We started with a team of 4. We're a team of 65 now. And I'm not the face of Ewaso Lions. These are the faces. We push against that one-face model. We are a community-led project, not community-based, but community-led. And with community leaders, you have impact. And we have had huge impact in the last 15 years. And with that, we also know that we're there to stay, and Ewaso Lions is not going anywhere. A few weeks ago, I was with Jenaria and Cassian, our 16-year-old warrior, in the car. And some of you might know this, but Jenaria and I are very competitive when it comes to lions. If I see them first, he gets really annoyed. If he sees them first, I get really annoyed. We always try and see who knows lions better than the other. And so 3 of us were sitting in the car, and we came across some lions. And I looked at them, and I thought, I can't remember their names. And I was like, that's so-and-so, maybe that. I was really quite confused. And I was too embarrassed, so I turned my face, and I was really trying to figure out who the lions were. And then I looked at Jenaria to ask him, but he also looked embarrassed. And I said, Jenaria, who are these lions? He's like, yeah, the name slipped. I just named them the other day. I don't know. And Cassian, 16-year-old Cassian, was looking at us with a big smile on his face, and he said, don't worry, guys, I'll tell you who the lions are. He said, this is Beneo, this is Neo, this is Nkarsis, this is Nagut. And I just got emotional again. And Jenaria had a big, proud smile on his face. We really have come full circle. And we couldn't have done this without you. You have all been with us from day one. You have been with us on this extraordinary Ewaso Lions journey. You have not only been our supporters, you have been our friends. You have laughed with us, you have cried with us, you have taken us on safari around our own country. You have sent me a bag full of dog treats for Kura and Nanyuri. You send us chocolates, send us more. Jenaria keeps stealing mine. We are so grateful, and we ask you to continue to invest in Ewaso Lions. We're not going anywhere. If you don't know who we are, get to know us. These are some of our needs for 2023. We have a special request for Jenaria, whose car is absolutely falling apart. If there's anyone who needs a really good Land Cruiser, it's Jenaria. We're in the midst, as you heard, we're in the midst of a serious drought. Animals are dying daily. As I drove out of Samburu last week, I came across a dead zebra, a dead oryx antelope, and a dead elephant, all on the same road. The communities are really struggling, and they're hungry now. This is a difficult time. And a personal appeal from me to all of you, from my friend Belinda and the Grevi Zebra Trust team. They are working so hard to feed those grevies. They're working tirelessly to keep them alive. And if you can, please support them. Last week, just the day before I left, I had a Mama Simba meeting, and old Donyo, our wise old Mama Simba lady, she said to me, Shivani, I know you're traveling soon, but don't forget, we're all in this together. We are all one, just like a donkey's hoof. And I said, what? Just like a donkey's hoof? And she saw the confused expression on my face, and she said, well, think about it. A goat's hoof is split, but a donkey's hoof is one, and we're all in it as one. So today, I ask all of you to join us and be part of the donkey's hoof. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Shivani. As you guys know, Shiv is a phenomenal storyteller. So we've got time for probably one question. So we'll go to Shay.
Well, I've been to Africa 13 times, and on one time, I was in a camp next to the Serengeti, and there was no electricity, of course. It was a tented camp. And I was walking back from the dining tent to my tent, and it was black outside. And I hear this scratching. And I look over, and about where the screen is on the wall was a lion, and he was scratching the ground. So I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I just kept walking, and he went back to scratching. It's ridiculous. But if I'd run, that would have been bad. But most wildlife are afraid of humans, so they're not going to mess with you.
On a lighter note, how do you determine the names of all of the lions?
Can I answer?
Yeah.
Lions, if you look at their whisker spots, is as unique as a fingerprint. And that's how we get to know them individually. Our teams, every single time there's a new lion, we got like Cassian, the new warrior is like amazing. Actually, I miss him like right now already. When you get out, like the first time, you need to draw those, and all of them, every single lines are like a very unique patterns. We look for both sides, both the left and the right, and also any unique markings on the ears, and probably on the body, and that's how we get to know each and every single lion individually.
And the team will go out and look at the personality of the lion
Right.
and say, well, this one's really greedy, so we'll just name it the equivalent of greedy in the Samburu language. So we named one the other day Nagut, which means greedy. So yeah, we will look at the personality. The guys will name them, the tourist guides as well. We all get together and do a big lion naming.
Yeah.
So it means something to everyone.
And also we get to involve the community in naming them. Some of the lions have been actually named by the community. Yeah.
Wonderful. Shivani and Toby will be around all day for questions, but we're going to move on. Thank you guys so much.